In the vast expanse of space, where stars glimmered like scattered diamonds against the cosmic void, the Galactic Empire's flagship, Celestial Dominion, emerged from hyperspace at the edge of the Sol system. Admiral Vexthor stood tall on the command bridge, his four arms crossed behind his back as he observed the tiny blue planet through the viewport. After centuries of expanding their reach across thousands of star systems, the Empire had finally discovered Earth, a seemingly insignificant world that had somehow escaped their notice until now. Primitive technology detected, Admiral reported his sensor officer, mandibles clicking with disdain. Their vessels appeared to be using basic fusion drives and metallic hull plating. No energy shields or quantum weaponry. A subtle wave of amusement rippled through the bridge crew. These humans would surely surrender at the mere sight of their superior fleet. The first contact protocol was simple: demonstrate overwhelming force, demand submission, and integrate the new species into the Empire's hierarchy, usually at the lowest tier. It had worked flawlessly for over 300 years. Admiral Vexthor allowed himself a small smile as he watched 15 human ships approach his fleet. Their vessels were indeed primitive, barely larger than transport shuttles, with obvious weld lines marking their hulls. "Open communications," he commanded, straightening his ceremonial cape. The view screen flickered to life, revealing the face of a human female with graying hair and weather-worn features. Her expression was eerily calm, almost amused. "This is Admiral Sarah Chen of the Earth Defense Fleet," she announced without preamble. "Welcome to Sol System. I assume you're here for the usual song and dance." The casual tone caught Vexthor off guard. This wasn't how first contact scenarios typically played out. "I am Admiral Vexthor of the Galactic Empire," he declared, voice booming with practiced authority. "Your species will now submit to Imperial rule. Resistance is—" He paused as he noticed several human officers in the background trying to suppress their smiles. "Is there something amusing about this situation?" Admiral Chen's eyes twinkled with mischief. "Oh, not really. It's just that you're the third galaxy-spanning empire to show up this month. The Xerxian Dominion left last week with 3 fewer dreadnoughts than they arrived with, and the Kraxan Confederation didn't even stick around long enough for coffee." Vexthor's secondary hearts skipped a beat. The Xerxians and Kraxans were no pushovers. Their fleets were nearly as advanced as the Empire's. "Impossible. Your technology is centuries behind ours. Those vessels you're flying are practically ancient." "Oh, these old things." Chen gestured around her bridge. "We keep them around for diplomatic meetings. Helps manage expectations." She tapped a few commands into her console. "Speaking of which, you might want to check your long-range sensors. You know, just for fun." The sensor officer's scales paled as new readings flooded his screen. Hidden behind Earth's moon, powered down to near invisibility, waited something that made the Empire's flagship look like a child's toy. The energy readings were off the charts, suggesting technology far beyond their understanding. "How and did your species?" Vexthor stammered, his usual composure cracking. "Here's the thing about humans," Chen explained, leaning forward in her chair. "We're really good at looking harmless until we need to not be harmless. Saves a lot of time and resources." She paused, allowing her words to sink in. "Now we can do this the hard way, which honestly none of us wants because it's been a long week. Or we can start over with a proper diplomatic conversation between equals. Maybe even discuss trade agreements over some of that coffee I mentioned." The bridge of the Celestial Dominion fell silent as every crew member turned to their admiral, waiting to see how he would respond to this unprecedented situation. And for the first time in his 300-year career, Admiral Vexthor found himself completely speechless. Admiral Vexthor cleared his throat, a nervous gesture he hadn't needed to use in decades. "Perhaps we should discuss these trade agreements," he managed, trying to maintain some semblance of dignity. The smirks from the human bridge crew weren't helping. "Excellent choice," Admiral Chen replied, her expression softening. "We'll send docking coordinates for your shuttle, though I should warn you, our artificial gravity is calibrated to Earth standard. Might feel a bit heavy for your species." The casual mention of artificial gravity technology, something the Empire had only theorized about, sent another wave of unease through the Celestial Dominion's bridge. As Vex Thor's shuttle approached the human station hidden behind Luna, he couldn't help but marvel at its design. Unlike the brutalist architecture favored by the Empire, the station possessed an elegant efficiency. No wasted space, no unnecessary ornamentation, just pure function wrapped in graceful curves that somehow made his own mighty vessel seem gaudy in comparison. The docking procedure was seamlessly automated, another casual display of technological superiority that made his mandibles twitch. As the airlock cycled, Vex Thor's security detail exchanged nervous glances. Their weapons, the pride of Imperial engineering, suddenly felt like toys. They were greeted by a young human male in a simple blue uniform, without any visible weapons or protective gear. "Welcome aboard Station Artemis," he said cheerfully. "Admiral Chen is waiting in the observation lounge. Would you like to freshen up first? Our environmental systems can adjust to your species' preferences." The casual hospitality was somehow more unnerving than any show of force. These humans acted as if hosting potentially hostile alien empires was a routine occurrence, which Vex Thor realized with growing anxiety. It apparently was. The observation lounge took his breath away. One entire wall was transparent, offering a view of Earth that made his flagship's viewport seem like a porthole. Admiral Chen stood by a table laden with various containers and cups, chatting with her staff as if this were a social gathering rather than a first contact situation. "Ah, Admiral Vex Thor. Hope the artificial gravity isn't too uncomfortable," she called out. "We've prepared several beverage options that our xenobiologists assure me are safe for your species. The blue one is particularly popular with the Xerxians." As they settled around the table, Vex Thor couldn't help but ask, "How?" "Your world showed no signs of advanced technology. Our surveys indicated a civilization barely capable of reaching its own moon." Ken's eyes sparkled with amusement. "Oh, that's an interesting story. See, about 50 years ago we got our first visitor, aggressive fellow, lot like yourself actually. Wanted to conquer Earth, standard procedure." She sipped her coffee. "Thing is, they made the mistake of broadcasting their technical specifications while trying to intimidate us. Our engineers had a field day with that data." "You reverse engineered their technology." Vex Thor's secondary hearts nearly stopped. "Initially, yes, but humans have this funny habit of looking at someone else's design and thinking, 'I bet we could make this better.' So we did, repeatedly." She gestured to the station around them. "Everything you see here started as someone else's superior technology. We just improved it." One of Vex Thor's advisors leaned forward. "But the resources required, the industrial capacity, are all carefully hidden," Chen finished. "We learned early on that looking harmless has its advantages. The whole primitive Earth thing started as a necessity, but honestly, it's become more of a filter. Helps us identify which alien civilizations are worth building relationships with and which ones need a firm reminder about galactic manners." Vex Thor wrapped his lower arms around his beverage, upper arms drumming nervously on the table. He had a sinking feeling he knew which category the Empire had just been sorted into. "There's something else you should know," Admiral Chen said, her tone shifting from casual to serious. "We've been tracking 3 more Imperial fleets approaching from different vectors. I assume they're part of your standard conquest protocol." She pulled up a holographic display showing the incoming vessels with a casual wave of her hand. Vex Thor's scales paled further. He had indeed called for reinforcements, following standard Imperial procedure for subjugating new worlds. It was meant to be a show of overwhelming force, but now it felt more like leading his people into a trap. I can recall them," he offered quickly. "Oh, no need for that," Chen replied, the corner of her mouth twitching upward. "Actually, this works out perfectly. Saves us the trouble of scheduling multiple diplomatic meetings." She tapped her comm badge. "Control, initiate protocol lighthouse." Across the solar system, massive structures began emerging from what had appeared to be ordinary asteroids and planetary bodies. Saturn's rings shimmered as thousands of hidden platforms revealed themselves. The surface of Mars rippled as underground facilities activated. Even Venus's thick clouds parted in places, revealing glimpses of floating cities that had been completely invisible to Imperial scans. "You see, Admiral," Chen continued, almost sympathetically, "Earth isn't just our homeworld. It's our front desk. The Sol system isn't a primitive civilization's cradle. It's humanity's reception area." She gestured to the holographic display, where the approaching Imperial fleets were now marked with friendly green indicators rather than hostile red ones. "And it looks like we're about to have more guests." Vexthor watched in stunned silence as new readings appeared on the display, energy signatures unlike anything in Imperial records, suggesting the presence of technology that made his fleet's best weapons look like slingshots. The humans had turned their entire solar system into a carefully crafted illusion, a cosmic welcome center that could transform from a primitive backwater to an impenetrable fortress in moments. "Your species, you've been doing this for a while, haven't you?" he asked, finally understanding the true scope of the situation. "Playing primitive, letting others underestimate you, learning from every encounter." Chen nodded, refilling her coffee cup. 50 years of collecting technology, making friends, and occasionally teaching manners to the less diplomatic visitors. "We've gotten pretty good at it." She glanced at the display, where the first of the Imperial reinforcement fleets was about to drop out of hyperspace. "Though I have to admit, your Empire's timing is interesting." "How so?" Vexthor asked, dreading the answer. "Well," Chen said, checking her watch, "in about 10 minutes, we're hosting the annual Galactic Conference on Sustainable Development. Representatives from about 300 spacefaring civilizations will be arriving." She smiled warmly, "including several former empires who learned the same lesson you're learning right now." The room fell silent except for the soft pinging of incoming ships on the holographic display. Vexthor could feel sweat forming under his ceremonial armor as he realized just how drastically he had misread the situation. His mighty empire, which had seemed invincible mere hours ago, now looked like a child throwing a tantrum at an adult's dinner party. "So," Chen said, sliding a data pad across the table, "shall we discuss those trade agreements? Or would you prefer to explain to your emperor why you started a diplomatic incident at the galaxy's largest peace conference?" Just as Vexthor reached for the data pad, a priority alert flashed across the holographic display. Admiral Chen's expression shifted instantly from diplomatic amusement to focused intensity. "Well, this is unexpected," she muttered, quickly expanding the alert. "It seems we have an uninvited guest." The display showed a massive vessel emerging from hyperspace at the edge of the Kuiper Belt, far larger than anything in the Imperial fleet. Its design was unlike anything Vexthor had ever seen, with a hull that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. Even his most advanced sensors struggled to maintain a lock on it. "You don't recognize that ship, do you?" Chen asked, studying his reaction. When Vexthor shook his head, she sighed. "Didn't think so. That's a precursor vessel. They show up every few decades, usually to check on their old experiments, which apparently includes most spacefaring species in this arm of the galaxy." The implications hit Vexthor like a plasma burst. "You mean?" "Yep," Chen confirmed, already coordinating with her staff through subtle hand gestures. "Your empire, humanity, and pretty much everyone else attending today's conference were all their science projects. They seeded countless worlds with life, guided evolution, and occasionally stopped by to see how their test subjects were doing." The massive ship continued its approach, its presence alone causing interference with communication systems across the solar system. "The thing is," Chen continued, her voice taking on an edge of steel, "they haven't shown up since humanity revealed our true capabilities. Last time they visited, we were still pretending to be stuck on Earth." Vexthor watched as hidden defense platforms throughout the solar system powered up, not targeting his ships anymore, but orienting toward the new arrival. "You wouldn't dare challenge them?" he asked, mandibles clicking in disbelief. Ken's smile returned, but this time it held no trace of amusement. "Remember what I said about humans looking at technology and thinking we can improve it? Well, we've had 50 years to study and enhance bits and pieces of precursor tech left scattered around the galaxy. and unlike them, we don't test our experiments on unwilling subjects. The holographic display updated, showing hundreds of ships dropping out of hyperspace, the arriving conference delegates. Many of them began broadcasting immediate distress signals at the sight of the precursor vessel. Chen stood up, straightening her uniform. "So, Admiral Vexthor, you have a choice to make," she said, her voice carrying the weight of authority that had been carefully hidden beneath casual friendliness until now. "You can either sign those trade agreements and join us in showing our creators that their experiments have outgrown the lab, or you can wait and see what happens when the galaxy's most advanced species discovers that their test subjects have been comparing notes." The precursor ship came to a halt just beyond Mars' orbit, its size now clearly visible, dwarfing even the largest human stations. A transmission began broadcasting on all frequencies, using a language so ancient it made Vexthor's universal translator struggle to cope. Admiral Chen's comm badge chirped. "All defense grids are ready, Admiral," reported a calm voice. "Conference delegates are requesting coordination protocols, and it seems our Imperial guests' reinforcement fleets are offering tactical support." Vexthor looked at his former adversary, now potential ally, and realized that humanity's greatest weapon wasn't their hidden technology or their reverse engineering capabilities. It was their talent for turning potential enemies into friends right before the real fight began. The precursor transmission echoed through every ship and station in the solar system. The ancient language resolved itself through the translators. Observation period 47,291 initiated. Subject species to be evaluated for continued existence authorization. The clinical detachment in those words sent chills through every being who heard them. Admiral Chen stepped forward, her voice calm but resolute. "This is Admiral Sarah Chen of Earth. Your authorization is neither required nor recognized. This conference of free species will proceed as planned." She glanced at Vexthor, who found himself nodding firmly as he signed the trade agreement with a quick gesture. The precursor ship's response was immediate, a wave of energy that rippled across space, intended to disable every vessel and station in the system. But instead of the expected chaos, something remarkable happened. The energy wave hit an invisible barrier, splitting and dispersing like water around rocks. 50 years of preparation, Chen explained, not to the precursors but to her newfound allies. Every piece of technology they left behind, every scrap of data we collected, it all led to this moment. We didn't just improve their technology, we understood it, and then we did what humans do best. We shared what we learned. The holographic display showed hundreds of ships, former rivals and enemies, activating defense systems based on shared human innovations. The Imperial fleet, the conference delegates, and Earth's hidden platforms all synchronized their shields, creating an impenetrable network across the solar system. The precursor ship fired again, this time with weapons that could shatter planets, but the combined shield network held. "You see," Chen continued, her voice broadcasting to all ships, "your greatest oversight was assuming each species would develop in isolation. You never expected us to cooperate, to learn from each other. Humanity's greatest achievement wasn't surpassing your technology, it was bringing everyone else together." Suddenly, the precursor ship's engines flared, preparing for what sensors indicated would be a system-wide extinction event. But before they could fire, something unexpected happened. The ship's lights flickered, its weapons powered down, and its engines died. "Did you really think," Chen said, allowing herself a small smile, "that in 50 years of studying your technology, we wouldn't create a backdoor? Every piece of precursor tech you left behind helped us understand you better. And now," she pressed a single button on her console. The massive precursor vessel hung dead in space as new signatures appeared on the scanner. Dozens of human ships emerging from stealth, surrounding the ancient craft. "Your observation period is over," Chen declared. "We're not your experiments anymore. We're not your test subjects. We're the ones who will determine our own continued existence." The precursor ship's systems started rebooting, but not under their control. Instead, streams of data flowed into every ship in the system. the complete archives of precursor technology and knowledge. Consider this our Declaration of Independence, Chen announced. You can either accept us, all of us, as equals, or you can leave. Either way, your time as the galaxy's puppet masters is over. There was a long moment of silence. Then, unexpectedly, a new transmission came from the precursor ship, not in their ancient language, but in clear, modern speech. Test complete. Finally, the ship's exterior shimmed, its imposing dark surface dissolving to reveal a more familiar design. Admiral Chen's eyes widened in recognition. That's one of ours. From the future, the ship's commander appeared on screen, a human woman who looked remarkably like an older version of Chen herself. We had to ensure the alliance would hold, the future commander explained. Some tests are worth conducting, especially when they unite the galaxy. Vexthor looked between the two Chens, past and future, and did something no Imperial admiral had done in recorded history. He laughed. Humanity hadn't just outmaneuvered an ancient species, they had orchestrated their own test, ensuring that when real threats emerged, the galaxy would face them together. As the shock of the revelation settled across the assembled fleets, Admiral Chen, the present one, shook her head with a mixture of amusement and exasperation. Time travel. Of course, it had to be time travel, because regular space diplomacy wasn't complicated enough. Her future self's image smiled knowingly on the screen. The conference delegates, Imperial forces, and Earth's fleet found themselves sharing something unexpected, relieved laughter. The tension that had built up dissolved into a kind of giddy celebration. Ships that had been ready for combat moments ago were now exchanging congratulatory messages and requests for diplomatic channels. You know, Vexthor said, his mandibles relaxed in what humans would recognize as a genuine smile. The Emperor will never believe this report. The mighty Imperial fleet, ready to battle ancient precursors, only to discover we were part of a human temporal social experiment. Oh, he'll believe it, the future Chen replied, especially after today's conference. You see, this moment, this exact gathering, becomes known as the Foundation Day of the Galactic Cooperative, and the Empire, under your guidance, Admiral Vexthor, becomes one of its strongest supporters. As if to prove her point, the conference delegates were already forming informal discussion groups, sharing technologies and stories. Species that had been bitter enemies mere hours ago were now excitedly comparing notes on how they'd each modified and improved various pieces of technology they thought were their own secret advantages. But why the deception? Someone asked. Why not just invite everyone to a conference directly? Present day, Chen answered that one. Would you have come? Would anyone have taken us seriously if we just sent out invitations saying, hey, let's all be friends and share our secrets? She gestured at the assembled fleets. Sometimes the best way to bring people together is to give them a common cause, even if that cause turns out to be a carefully crafted illusion. The future vessel began preparing for departure, its mission accomplished. But before it left, future Chen had one last message. The real precursors are still out there somewhere, and when they do show up, they'll find something they never expected. A galaxy united, not through force or fear, but through understanding and cooperation. That's humanity's real gift to the universe. As the time-traveling ship disappeared into a flash of light that defied several laws of physics, the gathered species did something unprecedented. They began planning for a future together. The conference that was supposed to be about sustainable development had become something far more significant. Vexthor, looking out at Earth through the station's viewport, finally understood what had been nagging at him since his arrival. You humans never needed the hidden technology or the clever deceptions, he said. Your real power was in making everyone else realize we're stronger together than apart. Admiral Chen nodded, already coordinating with her staff to accommodate the impromptu celebration breaking out across the solar system. That's the thing about humans, she said. We're really good at turning potential disasters into opportunities for growth. Now shall we join the others? I believe several species are already discussing a joint research initiative into temporal mechanics. The story of how humanity united the galaxy would be told countless times over the following centuries, but perhaps the most telling detail was this. In all the retellings, no one could quite agree on whether Earth had truly been as primitive as it appeared, or if that too had been part of the grand design. And somehow, that uncertainty made the story even better. As the Sol system filled with the light of celebration, one truth became clear. In a universe full of empires and armies, treaties and technologies, humanity's greatest weapon had been its ability to make others laugh at their own preconceptions and see the potential in working together.